Hey everybody, welcome to this free training, which is going to be on how to break into remote high ticket sales as a South African with no degree and no experience, guys. First off, I want to congratulate every single one of you guys for actually making it to this training. The fact that you're here tells me one thing, and that's that you are motivated and you are hungry to start earning money through remote high ticket sales. So, this is the first part to that journey. So, I want to congratulate every single one of you guys for actually making it the first step in your journey to actually becoming a remote high ticket salesperson. All right. So congratulations to every single one of you guys. And yeah, without further ado, let's jump straight into it, guys. All right. So first off, we're going to go into a little bit of an introduction about me. Um, Hi, everybody. My name is AJ. Most people call me AJ because my full name is really, really difficult to pronounce, but my full name is Anjuan. A lot of you guys have probably come across me on Instagram as Anjuan Closed It. And guys, this session is designed to give you guys real clarity on high ticket sales, how to actually get good at it, and how to land remote sales roles as a beginner with zero experience. Okay. And by the end of this presentation, you'll have a clear understanding of how South Africans can actually break into remote high ticket sales, even if they don't have experience, guys. So, real quick before we jump into it full force, what we're going to cover inside of this presentation is as follows, guys. So, first off, we're going to cover my background, guys. And the reason why we're going to do that is because I started off in a very similar position as most of you guys. And what actually got me into the position that I'm in today is high ticket sales, guys. And the reason I'm going to be telling you guys that is because I want you guys to see where I came from, because most of you guys are probably in a similar situation right now. And if you know somebody like myself who has come from a similar situation as you and made it out, then that gives you the confidence that it is actually possible to do it for yourselves, guys. So that's why we're going to be covering my background. Next, we're going to be covering what is even high ticket sales. I mean, it's a term that gets thrown around on social media all the time, but very few people actually know what high ticket sales is. So by the end of this presentation, you guys will have a clear understanding of exactly what high ticket sales is. And more importantly, you guys will have a clear understanding of how you can actually make money from this. Okay. Second or third, we're going to go over the two platforms that I recommend to actually land high ticket sales roles. There are way more than two platforms for you to actually do this on, but the two platforms that we're going to go over are free, or at least sort of free, and anybody can get started on these platforms. You don't need to buy a program. You don't need to do anything like that in order to get started on these two platforms. Not to say that you shouldn't buy a program. It's definitely a good thing to do because you will be able to improve your skill set and might get access to more things. But the platforms that we're going to go over inside of this free training are free. Okay. Then we're going to go over how to actually use those platforms to actually land a role. All right, guys. So without further ado, I hope you guys are super, super excited for this. I know that I am. So let's jump straight into it, guys. All right. So where did I start, guys? When I started out in this, guys, I didn't come from a place of having like a bunch of money or come from a place of having, a huge skill set or any of the advantages that most people might have. I actually came from a single mother, which if any of you guys come from a single mother, or even if you don't, you probably know that there probably wasn't a lot of money going around inside of my household, right? Single mother. My mother never even finished high school, just like me. So there wasn't a bunch of money for me when I was growing up, guys. I didn't oftentimes know where my next meal was going to come from. It was a pretty hard upbringing, okay? Not to throw shade or anything like that, but I did have a really good upbringing. But when it came to the money side, things just fucking sucked, okay? Another thing, I didn't even finish high school, guys. I never finished high school because I couldn't afford to continue on my studies. And at that point, I was kind of like, oh, do I want to like get a job to pay for high school, which I don't really even believe in, and get a job that I don't believe I'll be able to do well at. And so when we fell on a little bit of hard times as a family, I decided to actually just quit high school and try and do my own thing. All right. And even if I did finish high school, I don't think that I would have been able to take the traditional path like a lot of people sort of recommend. Why? Because when I was at school, I was really, really shit at school. And when I say bad at school, I mean like really bad. I was getting like 5 to 10% in maths. All right. So I'm sure a lot of you guys have had better marks than me when you were in high school or uni or whatever you're in. All right. So did really, really bad in school, didn't come from a lot of money, didn't really have any sort of backup plan when I dropped out of school, because I didn't have a dad around. I didn't have any family support in that way, whereby I'd be able to just fall back and do nothing if I didn't make an income for myself. All right. So a couple of the things that I tried after I quit high school. The reason I'm actually telling you guys this is because I know a lot of you guys have probably been through the same thing. So we're going to go over a couple of the things that I tried. And guys, I've tried a lot of shit. All right. You guys can see it over here. I tried a bunch of stuff because I didn't finish high school and I didn't get a degree. So I knew that like there was no way that I was going to be able to, become a doctor or become a lawyer or become an engineer. So I had to try alternative methods to be able to make money. And these are just some of the things that I've tried. I've actually probably tried a bit more than this. All right. So first off, something that I tried, which I'm sure a lot of you guys have also tried, is drop shipping or e-commerce. All right. I tried this. I opened up a store, spent some money on ads. And if you guys don't know what drop shipping is, essentially what you're doing is you're shipping products from China to a customer in the US or in South Africa or wherever, all right, using Shopify or any type of website. And in theory, the business sounds good because you're just buying a cheaper product and selling it in a more expensive market, right? Sounds pretty simple. In reality, it doesn't actually work out that way. There's so many more costs with drop shipping than just your hosting of your website and selling a product. Right? There's ads that you gotta factor in. There's a skill set that you need in terms of actually building up a brand for that store. There's so many different skill sets that you need to actually build up in order to make a drop shipping store successful that I just didn't have at the time. I didn't have the capital to spend 50 grand a month on ads. I didn't have the skills of marketing to be able to actually build a brand. I didn't even know how to build a website really well. So many of those skill sets that I was missing is probably why dropshipping didn't work for me. And it's also why I don't recommend most beginners who are starting in their entrepreneurship journey start with dropshipping, because there's so many things that you need to learn that you probably don't know, that your likelihood of actually making it work is super, super low. And you'll probably fail with dropshipping just the same way that I did. All right. Something else that I've tried that I'm sure a lot of you guys have tried as well is going to be Forex or crypto trading. Just like many of you, I lost all of my money Forex trading and crypto trading. And in theory, Forex trading and crypto trading sound like a really, really nice thing to do. I mean, you're just basically clicking a button, hoping that your currency pair goes up, and boom, you make a bunch of money. In reality, as I'm sure you guys have experienced, it doesn't actually work out that way. For me, I couldn't stick in a trade that I was winning for long enough for it to actually make me any reasonable amount of profit. And whenever my trade would go into a loss, I would just hold on to it because I was too scared to lose the money. And I'd end up blowing my whole account. Ended up blowing up a bunch of accounts trading crypto and Forex. All right. So I'm sure that's a story that a lot of you guys can probably relate to. I lost a bunch of money doing this. I don't recommend any beginner get started in this because you don't learn any skill set that is transferable into anything else. And it costs money to do. So there's no reason why a beginner should start with Forex. Your chances of making it work are super low. Not to say that it's impossible, but it's super, super low. And you're probably going to lose a lot of money before you make any money. And secondly, there's zero transferable skills. So unlike dropshipping, as an example, you're still learning some stuff that can actually benefit you later on. With Forex, there's literally nothing that you're learning that's going to benefit you in anything but Forex, which you're probably going to fail at. All right. So definitely don't recommend Forex. I've tried it. Don't make my mistakes, guys. Okay. The next thing I tried was YouTube. And this one I actually enjoyed, guys. I made a bunch of YouTube videos. This channel is still up there. You can go and check it out for yourself. It's called Black Swan Thinking. It was a YouTube channel that was in the finance niche. And if you guys know anything about YouTube, finance is the highest paying in terms of ad revenue. But the problem was that I overestimated the amount of money that you can make from YouTube and how long it will take for you to make that money from YouTube, as well as the skills required to make high performing videos on YouTube. So I did this for about 6 months and I actually had some videos that did well. I've got a video on YouTube that's got over 60,000 views by now. And remember, guys, it's in the finance niche. But do you guys want to know how much money I've made from that video? Big fat zero. So even though it was fun to actually make these videos, I had to relook at why I was doing this. And the reason that I was doing it was I wanted to make an income, and it just wasn't making an income for me, even though I was making videos that were actually performing well. All right. So YouTube wasn't something that was going to work for me. For a lot of the same reasons that the other two didn't. There's a huge skill set that's required. There is a huge amount of time that's required to do this. And I just didn't have the skill set that were required to actually make it work. as well as the fact that you just can't really get paid all that much money from YouTube views, all right, unless you have like multiple different channels. Next thing I tried, which is a little bit of an unorthodox thing, after I tried all of these things, I thought, oh, you know what, this online money thing isn't for me. Let me just try something in, a little bit more traditional, right? So this one actually worked for me a little bit. It's called motorcycle rentals. I would essentially buy motorcycles and rent them out to Uber Eats drivers and Mr. D drivers, and whatever money I would make, I would use to pay back the loan that I took to purchase these bikes, right? So I should actually just backtrack for a second. In order to buy these bikes, because as you guys know, I didn't have a bunch of money at this time, I had to take out a loan. So I took out about a 70 grand loan to buy a couple of bikes to start off this motorcycle rental business. And in theory, this also sounded fantastic. I was renting out these motorcycles for 600 bucks a week. Each motorcycle costed me about 15,000 rand. So I would make back my investment in about 6 months. But as you guys have probably realized by now, things don't usually work out in the way that we think that they will when starting out these types of businesses. So while I did make a little bit of money from this business, there were some things that I did not factor in, such as maintenance costs, such as drivers not paying me, right? Remember, it's a cash heavy business, so drivers would have to pay you in cash. And if they don't pay you, what do? All right. I didn't factor in how much my insurance was going to cost. I didn't factor in how many of my bikes would get stolen. So after about 2 years of running this business, some months I'd make like 10 grand, some months I'd lose money. It was really up and down. But after about 2 years of running this business, I think it was about 3 or 4 bikes on the road. But bear in mind, guys, I had a 70,000 rand loan that I had to pay every month. So with 3 or 4 bikes on the road, drivers not paying me, I was unable to make my loan repayments. All right. So at this point, I was feeling really, really stuck. All right. I had tried all of these business models. I had a loan for this business that I had started and pretty much no way of actually paying back this loan. Plus, I didn't have a degree. I didn't finish high school and I had no skill set, guys. So there was a point whereby I knew that this business wasn't going to really work for me and I needed to do something else. But the problem was I had this massive loan to repay. I had some credit card debt. I had so many things that I had to repay and almost no way of repaying it. So what did I do at this point when I realized that the bike business was not going to work for me? I went on Google, guys, and I researched what did most millionaires actually start out doing, all right? And one thing kept on coming up for me, right, guys? And if you guessed sales, a little congratulations for you guys there. Did you guys know that over 80% of millionaires started out in one career path, guys, and that is sales? But as you guys know, I didn't have any degree, I didn't have any experience in sales. So how are you supposed to get a sales role with no degree, no experience in sales? Well, we're going to get into that in a little bit, okay, guys? So the transition for me, my aha moment was I need to become a salesperson because this is how I'm going to be able to pay for this loan. This is how I'm going to be able to get myself out of this horrible situation. All right. And fast forward a couple of years, and that was without a doubt the best decision I've ever made. All right. Trying to become a salesperson, learning the skill set of sales is the best thing that I could have ever done for my entire life, right? If I had not had that moment where I realized that I needed a skill set such as sales to be able to actually earn an income, I would not be in the position that I'm in right now, guys. So fast forward to today. All right. And what I do now is high ticket sales, guys. And this is the only business model that I found out of all of those business models that actually works for somebody who doesn't have a bunch of money, who doesn't have a bunch of skills, and who is just hungry to actually make money. That's the only thing that you really need to make this work. All right. Provided you guys have internet, provided you have a laptop, which I'm sure you do. If you're watching this, you can make this work. All right. So I don't want any of your guys' limiting beliefs making you feel like, oh, well, I can't get into sales because, maybe I'm not good at talking to people. It doesn't matter. You're literally having conversations, guys. That's how you make money in high ticket sales. We're going to get into what exactly high ticket sales is in a moment, but I just wanted to show you guys some of the results that you guys can get from doing this. If you guys look here, this is a deposit directly into my bank account here of 139,000 Rand in December. Another one over here, which was in July or June, it doesn't really matter, of 104 and 65. That's 1 month, 170 odd thousand inside of my bank account, guys. If you guys had told me that I would be able to make this kind of a paycheck 4 years ago, I would have literally laughed at you guys. And if you had told me that I would be able to make this kind of paycheck from just getting on conversations and talking to people, I would have laughed at you even harder. It didn't even seem possible to me, right? Because I had been trying all of these online side hustles like dropshipping, trading, where there were so many skills that I needed to build up versus something like sales, whereby you're just doing one of those skill sets. All right. You only need to learn one thing. When you're doing dropshipping or you're doing trading or you're doing YouTube, you need to learn like 5 or 6 different skill sets. Sales is just one, but it is the most valuable skill set that you can learn. All right, guys. So what exactly is high ticket sales, guys? High ticket sales is anytime you're selling a product or a service that costs more than $3,000. All right. That is going to be high ticket sales. Specifically, remote high ticket sales is anytime you are selling an expensive product or service online. That is remote high ticket sales. All right, guys. Now, why does this actually work? All right. Unlike all of those other business models that we spoke about before, sales has been around for hundreds of years, guys. It is something that has worked for hundreds of years, and it is something that is going to continue to work for hundreds of years, regardless of AI. All right. I want to ask you guys something. Would you buy a product that costed 100,000 Rand without speaking to anyone? Would you buy it just because an AI made a website page? Probably not, guys. You'd have to speak to someone. You'd probably have some concerns. There'd probably be so many things that are going through your mind, which requires salespeople to overcome. All right, guys. Now, how does it work in terms of beginners? Beginners are able to get into high ticket sales because, like I mentioned before, it only requires one skill set, which is the skill set of sales. All right. And as a beginner, you have a very big advantage versus all of the other business models that we went over. Beginners have the lowest advantage. All right. But in high ticket sales, as a beginner, you have a big advantage, which is that you are moldable, you are motivated, you are coachable. All right. Those are the things that people who are hiring salespeople look for in a candidate. And if you're a beginner, you have those things. You have the hunger, you have the drive, you have no bad habits, you have coachability. And that's the biggest thing that these people who are hiring high ticket salespeople are looking for. Okay. Now, the big question, how do you actually get paid in high ticket sales? All right. High ticket sales pays based off of commission, guys. So let's say, for example, you sell a $5,000 coaching program. Okay. Generally, how your commission structure would work is that you would get anywhere between 10 to 15% of the cash collected amount. All right. So in the example of a $5,000 coaching program, you would earn anywhere between $5,000 to $750,000. Sorry, from $500 to $750 per sale. All right, guys. Now, if you convert that to rands, that's anywhere between 10,000 to 15,000 Rand on a single sale, guys. Now imagine if you did 20 of those per month. You can easily see how we would have gotten to these kinds of paychecks. All right. So that's how you get paid. Now, what do you really need to actually start in high ticket sales? All right. The only thing that you need is a work ethic, a laptop, and internet. All right. And the fact that you guys are on this call tells me that you have all 3 of those things. All right. So let's get to the big question. How do you actually land a role in high ticket sales? All right. Before we get into how to actually land a role, I want to explain the 2 roles that are available inside of the remote high ticket sales space. All right. So the first role is an appointment setter. All right. And that is exactly as the name describes. All right. You're setting appointments. Okay. So what does an appointment setter do? They get on calls with inbound leads, right? So maybe somebody has filled in a form and, they want a coaching program, for example. You as an appointment setter would get on the phone with this person, qualify them, make sure that they actually have enough money to buy the product, make sure that they show up to the call when you have scheduled it, and warm them up for the call. All right. Then the second role is a closer. All right. And what a closer does is they actually jump on the call that the appointment setter has arranged and close the sale. All right. So both of these roles, all you're really doing is having conversations. All right. And as an appointment setter, you will earn anywhere between 5 to 7.5% of a closed transaction. So again, in our $5,000 example, that would be about $250, which is almost 5,000 Rand. And as a closer, it would be $500 to $750 per closed transaction, guys. And you get that kind of money just having a conversation, guys. That's all it is. All right. It's having a conversation. Okay. When was the last time that you had a conversation and you got paid 10,000 Rand for it? Probably never, guys. High ticket sales is the only thing that's going to allow you to make that kind of money for that type of work. All right. Now, the big thing that you guys have actually come here for is the two methods to actually land a remote high ticket sales role. All right, guys, the methods that we're going over here are the free methods. There are paid methods to actually land a remote high ticket sales role, which I do go over inside of my paid training. But for the purpose of this presentation, I want to go over the free methods that you guys can implement today and actually land a role that will be able to make you anywhere between 50 to 100, 150,000 Rand per month. Okay, guys, and those two methods are going to be social media. So that'll be Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Upwork. And if you guys don't know what Upwork is a freelancer platform that connects people who are looking for a job to be done with people who are looking for a role. All right. So first off, we're going to go over social media. All right. So most of you guys are on Instagram or TikTok, and you will see these influencers who are selling high ticket programs. Maybe you've heard of, like, I'm trying to think of one right now, but Alex Hormozy, all right? He sells a high ticket program. Maybe you've heard of Grant Cardone. He sells a high ticket program. All of these people that you see on Instagram are selling a high ticket program. And like we mentioned before, if a program is costing 50, 100,000 Rand, nobody's going to buy that program just from a website checkout button. So what does that mean? It means these people need salespeople, all right? So social media is a really good place to actually find these people and outreach to them to get them to hire you. All right. So even a setter, all right, so an appointment setter on a major influencer offer can make upwards of $15,000 per month. All right. The only thing that you need to be aware of is that the competition is super fierce on social media. All right. These offer owners, these people who are selling a high ticket program, are getting approached constantly for people who want to sell for them. All right. So what do you need to do to actually land a role through social media? Unlike the hundreds of people who are going to be inside of these offer owners' DMs. All right. The biggest things that I found that actually work to get offer owners, to get influencers to actually read your message or see your message is going to be voice notes and video outreach. Okay, guys. So voice notes are 3 times more likely to get a reply than text. And the reason for that is a voice note sparks curiosity. All right. When you send a text, the person can already see what the text is. And if it's like, oh, I'm looking for a role, they're going to ignore it, right? Versus a voice note, they might actually listen to it. It gives the offer owner a chance to actually hear your voice and hear how you sell. And the biggest thing of all is it can't be faked by AI, all right? These offer owners hate that stuff, all right? If they get, you can imagine if you're a high ticket offer owner, you're probably getting 50 to 100 AI messages every day, all right? So at this stage, AI cannot create a voice note, all right? So that lets them know that you're a real human. And it also shows effort, guys. It's a lot more taxing to make a voice note than it is to just copy paste an AI message, all right? And that's what these offer owners are looking for, especially from beginners. They're looking for people who are going to put in the effort. They're looking for people who are going to be coachable. They're looking for people who have emotional intelligence, and that's what a voice note will show. Same thing with video outreach. It builds instant trust through body language, all right? Now imagine if we were doing this presentation and you couldn't see my face, you couldn't see my hands. Yeah, it might still be great, but it's a little bit harder to understand me. It's a little bit harder to trust the things that I'm saying because you cannot see me. When you do a video outreach, there's just so many more forms of communication that you can use in order to actually get through to people. All right. So video outreach is even better than voice notes. Voice notes I would only recommend in like dire circumstances where you cannot send a video outreach. But in general, video outreach is the way to go. All right. When you're looking for these high ticket sales roles. Then making your outreach impossible to actually ignore. All right. So the first things first, when you're outreaching on social media, is that you want to optimize your social media profile. All right. Now, why do you need to optimize your social media profile? I want you guys to think 2 different people reaching out to you. All right. One person has 1,000 followers. The other person also has 1,000 followers. But person 1 is making professional content. They're making content about sales. They're making content about their journey. They look professional. They don't look like they're, from the street. They don't look like they're like a drug addict. They don't look like they look like a professional. Versus the other person who also has 1,000 followers, and all that you see on their Instagram profile is them at clubs, them smoking weed, them drinking. Which one of these two people are you more likely to actually engage with? Obviously, it's going to be person one, guys. So that's why it's really, really important that you optimize your profile. All right. So having videos on there that actually show how you talk, having videos on there that actually show how you would represent a person's brand if you were to work for them is super, super important if you're going to be doing outreach on social media. All right. So before you DM anyone, before you do any outreach, make sure to optimize your profile first. All right. And now this doesn't mean that you guys need to become an influencer. All right. It just means that you have to have a reasonable Instagram. All right. So even if you're not going to have videos, just have pictures of you at a nice place with like a shirt on. All right. Not looking like a degenerate. All right. Number two, you want to start with smaller offer owners. All right. So don't start your outreach on offer owners who have like 1 million followers. All right. You want to start with people who have 10 to 50,000 followers. All right. Now, the reason for that is because they are much more likely to actually read your outreach or to actually see your outreach. All right. And if you have no experience, they're much more likely to actually give you a chance. All right. So go for smaller offer owners, because if you just outreach to only people with 1 million plus followers, yeah, maybe you would, luck on the chance of them actually seeing that outreach. But if you target smaller offer owners, you're guaranteeing that they're going to see your outreach. All right. And then number three, which we briefly went over before, is send video or voice applications, guys. If you just send text, the chances of you getting a response are super, super low. All right. Video is like 10 times more likely to actually get a response from the offer owners. So do the video outreach, guys. That's gonna be your highest leverage move in terms of actually landing a high paying role, guys. And it might sound like a lot of effort for you guys to do, but if you think about it, it takes like 30 seconds to make a video. All right. And that 30 seconds could put you in a position to land a role that would pay you 50 to 100,000 Rand per month. All right. So if you think of your ROI, it's a 30-second outreach for 100,000 Rand recurring monthly. All right, guys, that is stupid easy. All right. If you think about starting any other business, there's no way that you could see that kind of time ROI with anything other than high ticket sales. Okay, guys? Then the second method that I recommend is going to be Upwork. And we briefly went over what Upwork is. You guys can Google Upwork, but basically what Upwork is a global freelancer platform that connects freelancers with people who need work done. All right. Now, a lot of the time on Upwork, there are people who are looking for sales representatives. Okay. So the big advantage that you have with Upwork versus social media is that people are already on there looking for salespeople. All right. Unlike social media, where you're doing a cold outreach, on Upwork, you're doing warm outreach. All right. And a big benefit of Upwork as well is that if you have a really, really good profile, people will actually come to you asking to hire you on Upwork. All right. So the three keys to success to actually making Upwork work for you is going to be having a really good profile. So on your Upwork profile, there are a couple of things that you need to note, which is going to be your profile picture. So making sure that it's friendly and making sure that it represents you well. Your Upwork description. So what is it that you actually do? What are your expertise? And then your Upwork video, which is going to be a video of you briefly introducing yourself and explaining your skill set. And then the big mammoth of Upwork is going to be your portfolio. All right. So sales, when you have, in terms of your portfolio as a salesperson, the best thing that I found for people to do on Upwork is to have what's known as a mock call. All right. So a mock call is basically where you might get on a call with a friend and show how you might sell if you were working for like a made up company. All right. And that's the best thing that a beginner can do to actually showcase their skill set as a salesperson. All right. Then the second key to success with Upwork is going to be volume of applications, guys. So if you apply to a minimum of 5 roles per day, I can guarantee you that within 90 days, you will land a role. All right, guys. And now that sounds like a long time, but I'm not here to give you guys any fake or, unrealistic expectations. It does take work in order to do this, guys. So if you're looking for something that is going to be, passive and you're not going to have to do any work, this is not the thing for you. And you probably won't be successful because that does not exist, guys. And if someone tells you that it does exist, they're probably trying to scam you out of some money. All right. And I'm not in the business of doing that. I want to tell you guys like it is. but I also want to show you guys how to do it. All right. So volume of applications is super, super important. All right. Then the last thing is going to be the quality of those applications. All right. Now, one negative about Upwork is that it does actually cost a little bit of money for you to apply to roles on Upwork, because Upwork has this thing called Connects, and those cost a little bit of money. It's not like a huge amount. Might be like if you spend R1,000, you'll get quite a bit of Connects to be able to actually apply to a bunch of roles. All right. But because it costs money, you want to make sure that the quality of those applications is really, really high so that you can maximize the chance of you actually landing a role from each application. All right. Now, guys, when actually doing these applications, the best way to do them is with a personalized Loom video. All right. So let's say you're on Upwork or you're on social media. The way you want to do these is through a platform called Loom. So essentially what Loom is, kind of like this video that you guys are seeing now, it allows you to share your screen and talk to the camera and then send that out as a video. All right. So Loom is a free screen recording tool that captures your screen, voice, and camera. It's the most powerful Upwork outreach method because it gets you seen and heard. Like we spoke about before, guys, it's super important in terms of your communication to be seen and heard. All right. So when making these personalized Loom videos, what do you want to keep in mind? So you want to hook with their offer. Okay, guys. So what does that mean? That means you don't want to say something like, hi, I'm applying for XYZ role, because that's just super boring. And if somebody is seeing that, they're going to likely click off of the Loom video. All right. Instead, you want to apply by showing that you understand the struggles that their prospects are going to be going through. All right. So that might look something like this. Let's say you're applying for a role, which is a social media role. All right. So selling social media to business owners, as an example. All right. I, as an example, might show my Instagram profile and say, hi, this is an Instagram profile that I've built to 12,300 followers. And the reason that I'm showing you guys this is because I understand how social media marketing actually works and the benefits of social media marketing. And because of that, I'm going to be able to explain that to your customers and help them make a buying decision. All right, something like that. It shows that you understand what it is that they're selling, and it also shows that you are a reasonable, competent human being. And that's the biggest thing, all right? Most of the people who are applying to these roles are applying to them in such a way that it immediately disqualifies them, right? So if you can do something that is personalized to their offer and their clients, you're going to be a big step ahead of everybody else who's going to be applying to these roles. All right. Secondly, you want to put their offer under spotlight. Okay. What do I mean by this? You want to think about all of the challenges that their offer might have in terms of their customers, right? So if they're selling leads, as an example, you want to think about what objections their prospect might have to actually working with them and then address those on the Loom video. All right. Now, if you do this, what does that show? All right, it shows that you understand their offer and it shows that you understand their prospects. It also shows that you're going to be able to handle the objections of their prospects. All right, and that's pretty easy, guys. So if you, as an example, find a role on Upwork, you can input that role into like ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT what are the top 5 objections that an offer like this might receive. All right, then what you'll do is you'll just handle those objections inside of your Loom video. All right. And then last but not least, you want to go over a brief intro of yourself as well as a CTA. So an intro of yourself would just be, hi, my name is AJ. I'm from South Africa. I'm 25, blah, 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 blah. And I'm looking forward to hearing back from you guys and seeing what the next steps are to actually working with you guys. All right. And simple as that. All right. So as a recap to what this is, you want to hook them with their offer, meaning you don't want to just say, hi, my name is AJ, blah, 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 at this point of your Loom video, all right? Because it's too boring. It doesn't show that you understand their offer and it doesn't show that you understand their clients. Cindy, you want to put their offer under spotlight by showing that you understand the objections that their prospects are going to be facing. And then lastly, you want to have a brief intro of yourself and then a call to action for the next steps, all right? If you guys implement these 3 things into your Loom videos, I can pretty much guarantee that you guys are going to get a much better result from your outreach. All right, guys, and if you implement these things, you're going to be able to actually land a remote high ticket sales role, guys. That's about all it takes, okay? We've went over quite a lot of things inside of this training, and I'm sure a lot of you guys have questions. So if you do have questions and you feel like this is the industry that you actually want to, make a bunch of income in, I have something running at the moment, which is that I will do a personalized call with you to see how we can actually help you get into a remote high ticket sales role. All right, guys, I don't do these calls for everybody. It is important that you guys are actually serious about making a success out of high ticket sales. So there is a form that I want you guys to fill out, which will come up at the end of this video. And if you book in with that form and qualify, we will have a one-on-one session with me to see how we can actually help you get into remote high ticket sales, guys. And that's it. There's no sales pitch here at the end of this video. If you guys want a little bit of extra help, book in a call with me and we'll see what we can do to help you guys. All right, guys, enjoy.